the end of the presentation.
No, she asked where the cars are parked.
Oh, I did.
I've seen those. Taking care of my teeth. And I was trying to sing solos to myself.
We got 2 minutes.
Right on time.
So we're gonna, in 2 minutes, we're all gonna stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order.
Did Dad tell you to start working with me? Did Dad tell you to start working with me? Monster was
Did Lisa and thank you or anything?
Not yet. We got 15 seconds.
Here.
5 seconds, guys. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Defiance City Schools Defiance board meeting tonight. Could we all stand for the pledge, please?
The flag is right
behind you.
There you go.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Switcher, can I have roll call, please?
Mr. Rhodes?
Here.
Mr. Wall?
Here.
Mrs. Davis?
Here.
Mrs. Overland? Here. Mr. Baker?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Great. At this time, we're going to move into public presentations, and we have quite a large group here tonight. So if everybody, when their time comes, they could stand up front so we can get you on camera.
Yeah, so the camera system is right there on the wall. And we're going to actually start with Mrs. Booth. And she's going to introduce a young man and tell us a little bit about him and what he accomplished for us.
Isaiah, come on up. This is Isaiah Ramos. Did I say it right? Because I always say it wrong. Isaiah is a saxophonist with us in his junior year, and he auditioned for the Ohio Music Educators Association All-State Band. He was one of only 2 tenor saxes in the state of Indiana to be selected for this group. There's usually, for the whole band, there's usually about 2,000 kids that audition. So one of the 2 tenor saxes, he was accepted for that and participated in that group back in February at the Music Educators State Convention over in Cleveland. And he did a phenomenal job, and he's applying for auditioning for next year's also. So he's our first saxophonist that's been in the All-State Band since I've been at Defiance.
And that's 54 years.
And yeah. So and if he gets into it the second year, you're only the second student to make it twice. So congratulations to Isaiah.
Coach Murphy, can we put you on the hot seat and introduce us to quite a few young men
Well,
and young lady?
can we have you do the age jokes first, since I'm older than Mrs.
Well,
Booth?
Mr. Murphy, I'm surprised you remember.
Well, it's a good day.
Yeah, all right,
You know,
fantastic.
but the band from the home is coming to get me quickly.
All
So
right.
we gotta get this done. So, we have 5 state qualifiers in the wrestling program this year. We'll start with Izzy Jordan. Come on up, Izzy. Izzy is the first official girls state qualifier. The OHSAA accepted girls wrestling as a actual state program. This is the third year. Make sure I get this correct. I think it's the third year.
Yep.
Prior to that, there was a Coaches Association tournament that we had. Girl qualified Carmela Castaneda, who did well. But Izzy really is a path setter, trailblazer for us. And we feel comfortable that she's going to qualify again next year. She's just a junior and is going to lead many other young ladies going here. This is the way this is going across the country. It is the fastest growing sport according to the National Federation of High Schools. And usually once you get into those numbers around 8, 9, 10, then suddenly it explodes to 20 or whatever. So we're interested in seeing where Izzy's going to take us. So,
Congratulations.
do you want me to have them all stand up here? Or,
Yeah, bring them all up at one time,
Okay.
that'd be great.
Okay, so the 4 young men then, 2 juniors, 2 seniors, 4 state qualifiers for the young men. That ties the school record. The only other time it was set was 2016. So we're really excited to have 4 young men there. The 2 juniors are Alex Hinojosa and Tyler Dogan Kiesling. Really impressed that they both made the state this year because Alex participated in sectional last year but did not qualify even to districts, made the state, and then won a match at state this year. So massive improvement by him. Tyler was injured last year, so he did not wrestle at all at sectional districts where we felt as though he was capable of being at state, but he didn't have that experience. He was a district runner-up, and he made a really bad decision for the state tournament. Week, he chose to get sick. So,
There you go, Tyler.
he just really, I think he summed it up, walked off as, after his second loss, just said, I just don't feel like myself. I'm just not, is that a pretty good summation? You just didn't feel great. So, it's a tough time to get sick, but so he did not place. Michael Walls is a senior, and he is a first-time qualifier, but we're very excited to have him there. He set the single-season takedown record for Defiance High School this year that had been standing for several decades.
Can we add one more to that, Mr. Murphy? One more takedown? I volunteered Mr. Jerger.
Sure.
Yeah. Twist him up like a pretzel, Michael, will you please? He was on the Ninja Warrior TV show back in the day.
But, he had a great senior season. And then Mason Ducat is a 4-time state qualifier. He's only the second in our school's history. B.J. Miller was the other. Mason did place twice. He wasn't able to place this year. Coaches, we always complain about our draws and things aren't fair. And this year it was actually very true. Particularly Michael had just a horrible draw. Mason had a horrible draw. So we're looking forward to these 2 coming back next year and being able to avenge that, maybe along with a couple others. So really good representation of wrestling this year at state tournament by Defiance.
Fantastic. Mason, not to single you out with everyone else, but congratulations on being the second 4-time state qualifier in wrestling. If you look at the storied history of wrestling at Defiance High School, your name is in the record books forever. So congratulations to the rest of you as well.
Yeah, if we could. So again, only I think the 3rd 4-time WBL champion, more records you can shake a stick at, career wins, career matches wrestled. It just, you can't make the list of what his name's all over the record book.
Yeah.
So,
Congratulations, young people.
thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to
Don't leave, Patrick.
Wait.
I'd like to make a motion for the board to issue a resolution of acknowledgement for the wrestlers we just heard from, and then also for Mr. Ramos, his band members.
second.
The first, second. Roll call?
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Moats?
Yes.
Mrs. Overland?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
That puts you in the board records
Minutes
forever. So you are all in there forever. We have them for over 200 years old, handwritten minutes. So in 200 years from now, somebody's going to be rifling through these going, you're all in the, who are these people? And they're gonna look back and see the first female wrestler qualifies for state, your name will be in there, so kind of cool stuff.
Congratulations. Hopefully I do all these right. Before back here to get me.
It's gonna keep growing. Yeah, we need to keep at it. Yeah, it really is, it's exciting.
Wow.
No, I get it. All right, there you go, guys. Thank you, congratulations.
Did you get Pat?
Michael and Mason, do either of you intend to wrestle beyond high school?
Sienna Heights,
Okay.
Sienna Heights. Gonna be a saint.
All right.
And his parents will probably verify first time in his life, but hey, what the heck. Did you say you wanted to?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
wrestling.
stand, all of you, as you go back up there.
Then you are free to go after that if you want to.
Free
Or you're
left,
welcome to
free
stay, we
left.
have a lot of fun in here.
Yeah.
Everybody look at me. Am I supposed to have my paper?
Thanks for keeping track over Amanda.
Sorry.
Perfect, thank you.
Wait,
Hold on.
wait.
More pictures. Fantastic. And all of your parents should take you out of dinner for this accomplishment tonight. That's what I would recommend for your parents. Look. Your dad, all right, there you go. So, you're free to go. You don't have to stay any longer.
Thank you.
So, thank you for coming.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Next up, we will have Julie Hout and the STEM program come up.
There you go.
Alright, well, we're gonna have them all come up just so you can do the picture first, because we do have one that has a game right after this. So if you guys all wanna stand up, and then I'll call you up individually after.
You have to stand closer to
Yeah,
each other.
scooch in.
Come in.
Act like you like you.
That's what I always say.
Mrs. Hout, get in there with them.
With them, yeah.
Well, it's been a long picture here.
Can you demolish her?
Alright, and then Ellie, you're gonna stay up, the rest of you can go ahead and sit down, I'll call you. Sorry, Ellie. Ellie Adams. These students are representing our STEAM program at the elementary, and they were just asked to share what they love about STEAM, and so each one has their own things that they want to share. So I'll hand it over. I wanted you to hear it from the students.
Yeah. Before you start, say your name and what grade you're in really loud.
Yep.
I am old and don't hear that well, so talk loud, okay?
Hi, I'm Ellie. I'm in grade 5.
Okay.
So
Ellie, do you have a last
Your
name?
last name?
Okay.
And before I get started, I just want to say that Mrs. Hopkins is an amazing teacher.
She is.
So in STEAM, we got to look at invertebrates and do robotics with coding. And I'm just going to talk about one of the things we did with robotics, which is Spirobots. And the Spirobot is a cylinder shaped robot. Right? Yeah, sphere. And there was a box in the middle of it that we could use the iPad that we used to code with it to change the icon in it. And we could also use lights with that iPad in the middle of the Spherobot, and we could change the different colors with it. And at the end, we could play tag at the end of class, and whoever was the tagger had a red light on.
So if you don't know what she's talking about, members of the board, coding, she's actually taking her iPad and changing the electronic or the computer code inside of the Spherobot and having it do what she wants it to do. Is that a way of saying it, Ms. Otto?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Thank you. Great job.
My name is Jaden Bach.
Appleman, and I'm in 5th grade. I'm gonna be talking more about like science and nature. So first I'm gonna talk about sand table. It's from the Soil and Water in Defiance. The sand table shows like elevation in different areas. And we did like a Lego activity where we take a Lego brick and we put it in like a elevated area, and then it pretends to flood if your house, if the brick is a house, and if your house survives, it's just good job.
Do you think maybe with rivers around here that could potentially happen in Defiance? Has it been happening around the United States? Have you seen floods around the United States? Just shake your head, yes. Good. I'm sorry, yeah, maybe I won't ask anyway.
The last thing we're going to talk about is an outdoor classroom. We're still planning in it, but I'm excited to go outside and start learning about nature and everything around it because it's like in a little wooded area. We got a compost bin from the Soil and Water, and recently there were seeds put in it.
Awesome, fantastic. Great job, Ms.
Truman. Yep. And I just want to introduce Tinley as well, her sister, Tinley Hoffman. She's also part of it, but thank you guys for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, you may. He wants to show you.
Yeah, if it does cool stuff, put it on the table.
Yeah, put it up on the table.
Put it up here where we can see it.
Hi, I'm Truman. I'm in 4th grade.
You said 4th grade, Truman?
Yes.
Okay.
And for the recycled art project that we did in STEAM, I decided to make this robot with my dad that not only actually works. It also has a top hat that isn't just a top hat, it's also a working top. That's what I had to share.
So did you drink the liquid
Yeah,
death
I was gonna ask.
before you?
I probably did.
So liquid death, if you don't know, is mineral water. So it's actually, and they put some flavors in it. It's actually good stuff. It's $5 a can if you want to buy it. That's one of my favorites, and I don't get paid by them, Truman. So, tell us what you use to recycle, like what parts. We see the aluminum can.
So, this was from there was like this box thing that had this thing where you could take it and put a can in there, and we decided to take like, the Boy Scouts car wheel stuff that you use to make cars and use those, put it on a PVC pipe and glue it onto the can so it's easier to roll. And then at the school when we were doing it, there were other objects there that we could take home to use. So I used those to make the top with some hot glue. And that's pretty much all.
Is that a paint for the top hat? Is that a paint cap lid or a?
I don't know.
Yeah, but it's some sort of cap to something, isn't it? Yeah. So.
And that is the things that we used.
You know, Truman, there are people that make a lot of money making art out of recycled stuff and trash, so you might be onto something.
Yeah.
You might be onto something. Fantastic, young man.
Yeah, good job.
So I do also want to share, the 4th graders were all a part of that project, and 12 of them, Truman being one of them, will be showcased at Riverfest, and the community of Defiance can come out and vote on the final winners in 3 different categories, so we hope to see you. And then we have Ellie next, who's going to talk about the outdoor classroom and getting to go outside. Say your name.
I'm Ellie J. Hughes, and I like to go outside and clean because it's not good for the earth, because it can die if it doesn't get cleaned. But it's not good at all. And I like cleaning it up.
Do you want to tell what your class even did? So this was outside of STEAM now. Her class was taking the responsibility.
My class yesterday went out yesterday and went and cleaned.
You picked up around the outdoor learning classroom and around the school?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My dad also donated the picker-uppers.
Tell Bill we said thank you.
The the responsibility and ownership these
Yep.
students have taken. So
Fantastic.
My name is Colin Allen and I'm in 3rd grade and I'm also in gifted education. One of the things I really like about STEAM classes is we do hands-on activities and get to be creative. One of the things I did in Mrs. House was make this 300 Godzilla cookie cutter for my dad for Christmas, but mainly because we love Godzilla.
What are you hiding over there, Nick?
Nothing.
So you made those,
Yeah, I drew it.
you drew it, and then made it with a 3D printer at school.
Let me see.
And is it a cookie shape? Is it a cookie cutter?
Yeah.
Yeah. How many did you make?
A bunch. We also have some that share it for everybody.
Oh, awesome. Really cool.
You have to share.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I will have Julie help pass out as well, so you can help.
So cool.
Oh, they even made cookies. I thought that we were getting to keep the cutter.
No, you go this way.
Yeah.
Make sure you get that.
Yes, give them over there.
This is awesome.
Yeah, give them over there.
Yeah, give them over there.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. Good job.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you very
Colin,
much.
Colin, when you drew it, did you draw it on the computer? Or did you hand draw it and then scan it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Really
so
good.
as 3rd grade, they first do the 2D and then we transport it into Tinkercad and it becomes the 3D. So and 4th grade will print from the program. And then we have Blake Sickety, and this year, he's in 6th grade, but he went last year to a science symposium at Toledo Zoo, so I'm gonna let him share about his experience.
So my experience at Toledo Zoo involved we shared a lot of stuff about temperature and stuff. We went outside and used an infrared thermometer on the blacktop and some grass, seeing which temperature is higher and lower and comparing them.
And who did you present to at the Toledo Zoo, do you remember? Actual scientists, and then they were given feedback by these scientists and then also other peers from other schools.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool stuff, Blake.
You know that the Toledo Zoo is in the top 5 zoos in the country?
Now you know.
And the Columbus Zoo is in the top 5 too. So we're very fortunate in Ohio.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for letting us come and share.
No,
Thank you guys for coming in. That was awesome.
Yes.
Hey, you remember how you think Mrs. Hauk is cool? When you get to the middle school, we have Mr. Gherkin, who teaches it in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So what I want you to do is come back when you're in 7th or 8th grade, not 6th, because you're already here in 6th, some of you. Come back and teach us some more cool stuff, will you? And Truman, when you sell your first piece of art, or you make another cool piece, you can donate it to the school when you're done, and we'll put it up in here and leave it in here forever with your name on it. Is that cool? Yeah.
Very cool.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it greatly.
Everyone get a cookie?
Board meetings.
See ya. Come back again.
Yep.
There we go.
Hey, Colin, I would thank your dad for baking the cookies, but maybe your little brother told me your mom made them, so tell mom thanks, all right?
That's how I figured they were safe.
Yeah.
I supervise.
Yeah. All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. The cookies. All right. Any more public presentations? Seeing none, we will move on to the treasurer's report.
That's a tough act to follow.
I know. I don't have to follow that.
So, first thing on the agenda, is talking a little bit about the state biennium budget and some legislative communication. I'm sure all of you are aware that we are, looking in the next 2 years of the governor's budget for the biennium. It's called House Bill 96. It was originally passed out of the governor's office. I think we talked about it a few meetings ago about how the fair school funding formula was being phased in, but the inputs were being kept at 22 values instead of moving forward into 24 and 25 values. Since then, that bill has went to the House, and the House has come out with a substitute bill 96. And I'm going to try to give you like a little bit of a high-level overview, because I don't want to get too much into the weeds, because you can go down a rabbit hole with this information. But some of the things that are really going to impact the district if they move forward, and we're giving you this information so that if you do talk to your legislators, please tell them how this is going to impact the school and the students. The first one that they came out was there is a property tax and transfer, school district property tax reduction in school funding. So we've talked a lot about deficit spending and whether or not a school district should deficit spend, and I think we've worked really hard to build up a cash reserve and a carryover and not deficit spending, because that's being a prudent officer of public funds. Well, now legislators are saying that schools have too much carryover.
Oh my God.
So one of the things that the House proposed was to limit your carryover to 30% of your operating expenses. So if you look at the information that I put under public comment, in order to do that, what they would do is they effectively would say to the county auditor and county treasurer to reduce our tax millage. So if our carryover, like right now in the fiscal year 24, is 54%, we would have to reduce it to below 30 according to this proposed House bill. In order to do that, we're looking at reducing up to 15 mils. So we're at the 20 mil floor for residential. This proposed legislation would take away $5.8 million in funding from us for the next year. And then in addition to that, another $3.7 million, which is equivalent of 9.4 mils. This causes a lot of issues. I mean, one, it causes confusion amongst taxpayers because as a taxpayer, you have a set tax bill. Say you go into next year and they reduce our millage by 15 mils. So you're gonna be paying 15 less mils on your tax bill. And then the following year, they're not gonna reduce it an additional 9, they're only gonna reduce it 9. So that's an effective increase of 6 mils in the second part of the biennium without any type of levy or representation on that vote, just based on this legislation. One of the other things that came out of that is they're talking about moving to a 3-year forecast. And they're basically saying that treasurers always say that you can't budget those last 2 years. And you've heard me say that. But the problem is they are presenting that in a way that they're doing that for school district treasurers, but they're really not. Because if you look at the graph below, that shows you what happens to us if this 30% goes into effect. And of course, legislators would only want you to see the first 3 years. Because in the 4th year and the 5th year, we go negative. Which means that we would be back on the ballot in 2027 with the emergency levy and something more than that to cover the deficit because of the reduction of what we've had to face in the previous years to get below that 30%. So that's one of the biggest things that's facing us, and included in your packets under executive contract, under administrative contract, there's a letter that Mr. Morton and I wrote to send to Representative Kloppenstein, Hoops, and Matthews? Or no?
McCauley.
Senator McCauley.
Senator McCauley, thank you. Explaining to them not just this, but some of the other things that are going to impact us. When we wrote that letter, they had originally come out with 25%, but then they changed it to 30% in the final bill. So some of the other things that, just to touch on, House Bill 186 talks about addressing the 20 mil floor. It talks about the same thing with the county auditors, that if they feel that valuation goes up too much, that the county auditor can reduce, or county auditor can reduce collections below the 20 mil floor. So it's essentially eliminating the 20 mil floor, which the district is at and is solidly at, not just historically, but in the future. So that could have an impact of over $1 million over the course of our 5-year. House Bill 129 and Senate Bill 66, This one, we talked a lot about fixed sum and fixed rate levy. So a fixed rate levy is the property taxes that you guys all pay on your house. And if that levy was voted in 1980, you're never gonna pay more money than what you paid in 1980. So effectively, the millage, which in 1980 may have been 10 mils, could effectively today be 2. And then, of course, as you roll below the floor, it goes back up to the floor. That's the 20 mil is like the smallest amount of millage the school district
And that
in
is
current legislation
That is current law, correct.
can be funded at. So what these bills do is it takes our fixed sum levy, which is our emergency levy, which does not go against the 20 mil floor, and it puts it against the floor. So what happens is that when that millage rolls back and they bump us back up to the floor, if we put the 4 mils that the emergency levy collects in that 20 mils, we're only gonna collect 20 mils. So effectively, they're getting rid of fixed sum levies if you're at the 20 mil floor and below the floor enough to absorb that millage. So that piece of legislation is, could take away $1.58 million a year with the collection of the emergency levy if it moves forward. House Bill 28 talks about making every levy a new levy. So when we would go back on for the emergency renewal, we couldn't go on as a renewal, we would have to go on as a new levy every time we're on the ballot. So there'd be no such thing as a renewal. We feel not only as an organization, but as a district that would make it difficult for people to understand that we're not always going on for new money, and also harder to pass levies if everybody thinks every time we ask for money, it's going to be new money. And then House Bill 61 has probably one of the smallest impacts on us, but it's expanding the homestead exemption, and all of you, especially, let's say, Chris, you've been on the board for a long time, Wes, you've been on the board for a long time, you've probably lived through the legislation when homestead was put into place, where they basically said, we're gonna take away giving the school the collection of, say, tangible personal property, but we're gonna hold you harmless and give you this money instead. And that's on the 5-year forecast under property tax allocation. So what 61 proposes is to not allow for that exemption to be how it currently is, but to do a flat rate, which is basically going to reduce the amount of money that we get from the state that they collect for that tax. So, like say for example, if, say Chris, you're a homeowner and say you get your 10% rollback for being your primary residency, that 10% would go to a flat $1,500, and that's what the school would be held harmless on, instead of being the 10% of the value of your house, which say could be, $200,000 house. So there could be a loss of revenue with that as well. Every year we receive over $500,000 in homestead and rollback calculations. So there's not like a set number for how that would impact us, but it definitely would have an impact on us. Some of the resources that we gave to you is there's a fair school funding plan that was put out that talks about the fair school funding plan, because essentially the House's version of the biennium budget wants to freeze the fair school funding formula, and they're calling it a bridge, which all of us know that have been in school districts for a period of time that when they start using a bridge formula, it means they're bridging to something new. So we're concerned that, we worked this hard to get the fair school funding plan in place. We are currently not funded at 100% over this next biennium. We would have been funded up to 100%. If that gets froze, then we would not get that additional funding that we were counting on when I presented the last 5-year forecast. So that's one of the things that on that fact sheet, if you take a look at it and read through it, it'll just tell you what the fair school funding is, what that House bill is doing, and how it's impacting districts across the state of Ohio. Any questions? Did I hit everything?
I think it's kind of interesting with their rainy day fund, they don't abide by their own rules of 30%. There's been as much as almost a year's worth of revenue in the rainy day fund at one time.
Mm-hmm. The 30-second elevator speech, I literally have it in front of me on my computer. So essentially, since 2005, the General Assembly has introduced all of these tax cuts and it costs the state of Ohio about $13 billion in taxes annually, okay? And they do that in the forms of abatements, reductions. I have a list of tax cuts since 2005. What that does is it forces school districts, boards of DDs, county governments, city governments, anybody that is a taxing agency to rely on property taxes heavily. And when you look at that, when you have programs like Medicaid that continues to go up, and then you throw in the Ed Choice vouchers that continually are expanded and funded, then it takes those funds that were allocated for schools and it diverts those to those programs and takes away from us. Well, to fund all of that, they have to do something, and they're going to take it away even more from schools and place it on this. And you're going to hear the word, well, local control, local control. What that means is, if you want it, you got to pay for it. Now, the positive in this, there are 611 public school districts in the state of Ohio. And this isn't going to impact just us. This is going to impact everyone. I think what's most important is this will shock you. Not one legislator or senator responded, either we got your letter or thank you, we'll take it under advisement. That shouldn't surprise you. But they're tired and they don't want to hear from school district officials. The public and the taxpayer and the parent is who are going to be the driving force in this. And because they see us as, the kind of they're just complaining school leadership because it's going to be hard for them to do this. It's real simple. We're stewards of taxpayers' money, and we take that very seriously. And I know every one of you do. But it's going to get to a point where we're going to have to go to the well, and there might not be anything left in the well, and it may be dry. And when that's the case, I don't know what we'll do. I'm not doom and gloom. We'll get through this. Cheryl and I have said it's hard to plan and speculate because you automatically go to the worst. We're at literally the midpoint in the governor's budget, literally the midpoint. Yesterday was the midpoint. I'm hopeful that the Senate version comes back with a little more common sense as they hear from us. And make it clear, the voucher system is here to stay and it will continually be expanded. That is not going to go away. But if that is not going to go away, we are now pushing for, then you better assess everybody, you better audit everybody, you better treat everybody the same way you treat us. If you're going to give them public money, then they should be treated the same as us. So I went beyond the 30-second elevator speech, but I'm going to share that with all of you in this room, and I'll share with you the tax reductions, because I think it's important that we all talk to our neighbors as well, and anyone that we encounter, and share it. And then, it's a lot of people don't like, I'm not going to call that guy, I voted for him 4 years ago, whatever. But it is transparent and public. You can access their email right on their personal page at the House of Representatives or the Senate, and you can send it directly to them. I'm sure they have an assistant or someone that gathers that, reads that for them, and gives them the stuff that's important in their eyes. So we have some uncertain times ahead of us, and what are we going to do? We'll figure it out when we get there. Because, yes, sir.
One of the things that wasn't mentioned is going to hit us in the governor gave here a little week ago. Take $666 million of education money to give the Browns to build a new stadium out by the airport.
They're claiming they're going to sell bonds, Mr. Bagel. I don't know what
Good
they
luck
are.
with that.
I don't know. They're claiming they're going to sell bonds. Yeah, wait for the Bengals to show up because they're going to want something too. So, all right. Thanks.
There's a lot out there. If any of you want to come in, or if you want information, if you want to have a conversation with the legislator, and you need information for that, Bob and I will be more than happy to sit down with you and present some bullet points for you to present. That goes as well for the people in the audience, because I know all of you are going to do that as well. But we need to get the word out there. And like Bob said, I was at my conference a couple weeks ago, and we basically were told that they're not really necessarily listening to the school districts just because they feel that we have a vested interest in keeping our own money, which we do, but we have a vested interest for a reason. I mean, if you've heard me present the 5-year, you've always heard me say that we should have 6 months operating cash, not 90 days, which is what 30% is. We get our tax payments every 6 months. So I always tell people, if you got paid twice a year, how much money would you need to go from one paycheck to the next? And that's kind of how we are. So there's a lot of information on this. If you have any questions, just let Bob or I know, and we'll be more than happy to help you. And as this progresses through, we will keep you up to date.
I know when they had the bridge reopening at 127, I talked to Mr. Klockenstein about some of our issues, and he didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear it.
He's focused on energy.
Yes. Leading into the next item, the 5-year forecast will be presented at the May 7th meeting. I'm not sure how much more information I will have. We're hoping we'll have something from the Senate by then. But in all honesty, you know, I may be presenting a forecast in May and then re-presenting a forecast in July that looks very differently, depending on what comes out of the legislature. So I know all of you look forward to that presentation, so I want to give you a heads up so you can plan your illness today.
Which one do you want us to come to, May or July?
I was both.
Next thing I have is the March financials. We are on target for what has been forecast. We're spending, you know, a little more money than we have in previous years because of the increase in DPIA funding that we received. But we are on track and on target to meet the forecast for the end of the year. Any questions on the March financials?
Not very good.
So next thing I have is some multi-year contracts that we have every year. None of these are new vendors or new services. We have Defiance Medicaid agreed upon procedures. We have to have that in place because we do serve Medicaid students and we do get reimbursement for that. That is with Julie Group. We also have the Medicaid School Program Service Agreement with Healthcare Process Consulting. They are the ones that work with our employees to process the Medicaid claims, and then they send the Medicaid money to us from those claims, and they also help us do a direct cost report every year. And then the last one I have is the GAP compilation, which is we do ACBOA. And this is again that time of year that I ask you guys if you want to continue to do ACBOA, if you want to go back to GAP accounting. We currently do ACBOA because it gives us the ability to be audited in cash, which is how we spend money, but it also creates the accrual books that if something happened and we had to go back to GAP, like we were forced back to GAP, we would have to go back and redo the last 3 years. So,
And that's what you get written up for not doing it.
and that's the audit citation every year that we don't file full accrual. And I still stand by the fact that we save money not only on the compilation report, we also save money on what they audit. So, and then the last thing I have is some budget and objectives in the consent agenda, science club budget, Alive and Kicking, revision number 1, Spanish trip, and prom revision number 1.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it, thank you.
Let's move on to the treasurer's action items. 4.1, the March financials.
I'll make a motion to approve the March financials.
Second. Charlie, all those, or roll call please?
Mrs. Oberlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Moats?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Moving on down to 4.2, the Defiance CSD Medicaid agreement with Julian and Grube.
I'll move on 4.2.
Chris?
I'll second.
Kathy? Any other discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Moats?
Yes.
Mrs. Oberlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Move down to 4.3, the Medicaid School Program Service Agreement with Healthcare Processing Consulting.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Charlie? Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Moats?
Yes.
Mrs. Oberlin?
Yes.
And then the final one to the compilation report agreement with Julian and Grube to stay with the OCBOA.
I'll move on 4.4.
I'll second.
Chris and Michael, any discussion on that? Roll call?
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Moats?
Yes.
Mrs. Oberlin?
Yes.
Mr. Bakewell?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Let's move on down to the superintendent's report. Discussion items.
Discussion items, if you look at upcoming dates, you'll also see in the consent agenda and a discussion item 5.5 approving the DECA students to attend the national competition in Orlando, Florida. That is actually, they're leaving Friday morning, all right? And then, so that's on there, they'll be in Orlando, and then you have high school prom at the Eagles, and Mr. Jerger is looking for after prom chaperones, goes to about 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, you
So
guys
the
are more
dance-
than welcome to attend.
Dance starts, so you go 7 PM to 3:30 AM, is that correct?
Well, yeah, clean up 5 a.m.
Yeah, 5, all right. Call me when you get home, all right, okay? Staff Appreciation Week is the week of May 5 through 9, and we will be providing lunch to them, and I've talked to, I think, everybody, or almost everybody, on those days, that we're actually gonna do that in the buildings on 7, 8, and 9. The Board of Education right back here on the 7th, on the Bands Award Program in the cafeteria, they issued a Sousa Scholarship and the Laura Puncha Scholarships that evening, and all of their specialty awards. The Sousa concert, speaking of, is May 11th in the auditorium at 2:30 p.m. And our Right to Read Week at the elementary school is the 12th through the 16th. Any questions on those? All right, hearing none. Item 5.2, my computer's acting a little funky here.
Mine too.
All right. 5.2, proposed tax increment financing for the city of Defiance. I received via email on April 2 an actual notice as required for a proposed tax increment financing for the city of Defiance. They actually mailed a copy to the
Board of
business.
Education, which I gave to Mr. Moats.
Yeah, they mailed a copy to you. And if you had a chance to review that, essentially, I'll summarize it. The whole south end of town here is in a, currently in a CRA. The city is proposing a TIF on the area of the 90 condos right across the street that Timcor is currently in the process of developing that with a home builder out of Texas. And the city asked for us to review this. A typical CRA that you have no say in is a 75% of the tax collection goes to the city, and a 25% comes to the school district. And those are for no say, they could say it be for 10 years. They're requesting 75% of it for a period of 30 years. And I just thought I would share that with you. I have notified them of receipt of it. I did not comment. I gave you in your board agenda everything that was sent, and you can see where that is. Typically a CRA a TIF is for infrastructure upgrades that have to be put in place when that is done, such as bringing power, sewer, water, roads, curb cuts, you name it, to a property. So that is for, there will be more discussion on this. I'm not looking for any action, but I do want you to be aware of this, and we will need to either send them we are in agreement with it, or we are opposed to it, or we are sending you what we think is a fair, and we have to do that, I believe, 2 weeks prior to their action date, which they have on there is June 10th, okay?
Under executive content, I ran some numbers to show based on the value that we were given by the city for that property, which I just recently found out may be a little too high. But just so you know, so you have it for your information, the first column is being at the 20 mil floor because, as I said before, this is residential, not commercial. So residential is at the 20 mil floor. It gives you the taxes charged, the 25% that we're gonna get regardless, and then the remaining 75% that the city would get. The second column is all school levies, because as all of you are aware, we have a bond issue. We also have API levy. So that is, and then the emergency levy, that's included in the 28.56 mils. And then the very last column is that we pulled the tax abstract for what the city would collect on everyone in their jurisdiction, including the school, which the school is 67% of the tax base. So of that 42.38 mils, 67% of those are the millage that I previously modeled for you. But I wanted to show you, you know, all things created equal, this is what they get from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So the 25% is listed there, as well as the remaining 75. And if anybody wants to review those numbers, like I said, they're very rough. I did talk to the finance director at the city right before the meeting, and she wanted to say that she thought maybe the values that we were given in the letter were a little high. So I think they estimated 300 to 400 per unit, and she thinks it'll be more around 250-ish, because they're townhomes. So, but very preliminary, very rough numbers. We just wanted you to be aware of it, you know, moving forward, and we'll give you more information.
Your counsel that is the experts in this is Gary Stadronsky at Ennis Britton. I know that Kathy and Chris, Wes, you've dealt with Gary. Gary's been in a meeting before. I don't know that you've met Gary, or Charlie, I don't think you've met Gary. So I sent it on to Gary for him to review. That is what his role is at the firm. And he has that and has sent me back some talking points to address. Okay, stay tuned on that. Item 5.3, first reading on policy updates. But I can't get it to open.
Yeah, I think it's the website, because mine's freezing as well.
I can't get
Everybody
it from
first?
you.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Russ. The policy updates, what I want you to look there is you have a snapshot. And you'll see if it says revised, rescind, new, all the way throughout. And what you're going to see over this meeting, the next meeting, is these are, most of them are due to laws that have been put in place primarily through the Parents' Bill of Rights, okay? And cleaning up some language within it. There's some change in the laws about medications, over-the-counter medications, seizure medications, and that. Some revised time for religious instruction, mental health, permanent exclusion. It's a litany of information. One of the things that in our cafeteria audits, we had some policies that were outdated that caused Deanna to have to make some adjustments. So versus Deanna having to do it, we're going to update the policy to be in line with that. You know, there are things that in there, for example, like an automated AED, and who's responsible for them? Where are they in your district? How do you know they're active? How do you know if the batteries are charged? We actually have a procedure in place where our school nurses across the district go to those, check those. We update those annually, but our policy, it had to be a revised policy because of some changes in law. So if you review any of those and you have any questions, please let me know. Mine just opened. Thank you, Mr. Motes.
Yep. Mine just did too.
All right. Let's see if there's anything else. You'll see some stuff that are technical corrections, etc. So nothing earth-shattering. Okay. All right. This is the third time I've brought this to you. Resolution to make provisional changes to the board policy and administrative guidelines and forms to comply with Senate Bill 29's special education model policy. One of our first meetings in January, I brought you the special education model policy that was presented by the State of Ohio Office of Exceptional Children. They don't call it that anymore, but that's what it is. They said this, if you're going to operate in the state of Ohio, you have to follow these standards. This is what you have to do. You adopted that policy. Then they said, whoops, we made some mistakes in that. You have to make some corrections. You did that as well. Well, they have another series of mistakes. So you will see we need to make some corrections or revisions to what we adopted in February. All right? And I asked our policymakers, they said, well, they put artificial deadlines in there, or they put deadlines in there, then they didn't have what they needed you to have correct. So that will be in there as well, and that is my individual action item.
So we have all these corrections, there's a lack of attorneys in the legislature to do it right?
Well, they're all attorneys, Charlie, that's probably why they messed it up, right,
Well,
Michael?
less attorneys than used to do that.
Item 5.5, you'll see there the DECA National Competition, Orlando, Florida, April 25 through 30. And you will see the proposed overnight extended field trip application that, because we've had it in our hands for a long time, but since somebody couldn't be at the April 9th school board meeting and we had to cancel it, we're doing it 2 days before they leave. This is a very, I would say, routine and how we go about it. Nothing, everything is paid for, we've bought everything, they're ready to leave. And if you get to the last page, you see that there are a number of students, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 students attending the DECA National Competition. We have a couple of kids that were state champions out of that one. And after we get through this, you'll bring them to the board meeting as well, correct, Jay?
I will.
All right. All right. Any questions on that? That is in the consent agenda. Also, Mr. Jerger is feverishly scheduling kids for next year. Probably got most of it done by now. But you will see that the 25-26 course handbook, Jay, anything stand out? Any changes?
The only big change is an addition of an honors algebra class.
Okay. All right. So if you have any, that will also be in the consent agenda. And then administrative reports, Mr. Motes.
Yes, if anybody has any questions on the administrative reports that were in there, we're gonna, let you guys ask now, but if not, I'm gonna save some time and we're just gonna keep moving on. They were in there, they were very nice, everybody, thank you, and we'll just keep moving here. Does anybody have any questions for the administrators for right now? All right, seeing none, we're gonna move on to the superintendent's action item 6.1.
I'll move on 6.1,
Second.
resolution to make provision changes.
Chris, second by Charlie. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Bakel?
Yes.
Mrs. Everland?
Yes.
Mr. Motes?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Before you move into the consent agenda for employments, Mr. Motes, Mr. Gerger, would you introduce a prospective new employee
Yeah,
for him?
so our new hopeful math teacher is coming from Wayne Trace, Megan Fitzwater. Originally from Otsego, studied at Finley.
Is Otsego a place, or are you from Tontogany or Haskins?
Outside of Haskins.
All right. Or Weston?
No, Weston.
Studied at Finley, which is where Wes got some connection to Finley. Was in Finley for 3 years, Wayne Trace for 9 years. Steve Wall's gonna be retiring, so she's gonna be taking that position. Don't know the exact teaching assignment, but we're gonna figure that out once we get her to become a bulldog. She's got 4 young boys living in Continental. We're trying to make them become bulldogs. They just live down the street from us.
I don't know, if I was a little boy, I'd rather be a pirate than a bulldog, I don't know, but we'll get them transferred over.
So this is Megan.
Hi, Megan.
Or Megan.
Welcome. Just real quick here, there was quite a few donations. I hope everybody had a chance to look over those. And I don't think there were any retirements.
Yes.
Oh, Mrs. Wank, I would like to thank Mrs. Wank for her years of service. I think 21 years, if I remember right.
That's correct.
So, and other than that, does anybody have any other questions on the consent agenda? Does anybody need anything removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move.
Michael,
I'll second.
Kat, or Chris? Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Motes?
Yes.
Mrs. Everland?
Yes.
Mr. Bakel?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Great. Move on down to old business. Anybody have any old business? All right, seeing none, I'm gonna move on down to new business. And I do have one thing I'd like to report. The Defiance City School Foundation had our I guess would be our second of our third meeting of the year. That it's doing very well. We raised $25,429 from our fund campaign for this year. Fall campaign. We gave about $18,000 in mini grants we awarded on that night. And then also there was roughly $15,000 worth of scholarships that were given out to students, seniors, and renewals. So thought that was very interesting. Does anybody have any questions about the?
How many mini grants did you say?
Oh,
Right there, I can't make count.
Here's the list.
Yeah.
18,000, they did.
Yeah, it's about 18,000.
18,000.
We had 25,000 to give
Uh-huh.
because that's what we raised, but
Not everything qualified for it.
no, I don't think we had enough to give it away. So, and the money that's left over goes into the capital campaign, and hopefully that will help.
We had 20, I'm sorry, Wes.
Hopefully that will fund our outdoor classroom.
So we had 24 of the 25 people present, but for example, the first grade team, one first grade teacher came and presented for the whole team. One kindergarten teacher came and presented for that. But here's a copy of it if you can.
You're fine, yeah.
And
When you're done.
if you want to know the truth, we even addressed everybody that was there. We said, tell your friends if they want some more money. But instead of the funds going back into the general fund, which they had for a number of years, about 5 years ago, we created the Capital Improvement Fund under the umbrella of the Defiance City Schools Foundation. And what that does is remaining mini grant funds go into a fund that could be requested, and the initial was to fund some features at the outdoor classroom. Well, Julie Hauk is such a go-getter. She's going out and finding funding sources that we don't necessarily need to spend that now, which is good because then a capital improvement fund, you can let your imagination go wild. Anything within the schools that a teacher has a passion about or the board has passion about, our foundation board then has the ability to contribute to something down the road. So.
You can pass that around
I'll
to
do
everybody.
that.
That was my only new business. Anybody else have any other new business? Seeing none, I see we do have a reason for executive sessions, number 1 and number 5.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
For number 1 and number 5.
Charlie? Any other discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Bagel?
Yes.
Mrs. Everly?
Yes.
Mr. West?
Yes. And we are in executive session.